All right, so here we have three vectors. We have the vector u, which is 2i minus 3j, the vector v, which is I, or 1i plus 2j, and the vector w, which is 4i minus j. And we just want to find a couple of dot products here. We got u dot v, w dot w, and u dot v dot w. Okay. Well, before we actually do the dot product, let's just do some vector math, right? Let's add some vectors together, right? So, for example, u plus v, for example. Okay, so remember when we add vectors, we just add the corresponding components, right? So u we know is 2i minus 3j. Okay, v we know is I plus 2j. So when we add these together, we just add the corresponding components. So 2 plus 1 gives us 3, so 3i. Then negative 3 plus 2 gives us minus 1, so minus 1j. Okay, so this would be the sum, right? Now remember, we can also multiply by negative 1, or we can multiply by some scalar value, right? So for example, if I ask you what is 3w, okay, what that means is we're just going to multiply each component of w by 3. So 3 times 4 is 12, so we get 12i minus 3j, something like that. And we can also multiply by a negative, right? So if I ask you what is, for example, what is negative v, right? That means just every component of v is multiplied by negative 1. So we get negative 1i minus 2j, okay? So that's just, a little straightforward, I hope, right? Addition, subtracting, multiplying by some non-zero number, multiplying by negative 1. But what is the dot product? So what the dot product does, right? Remember, the dot product gives you a number. The dot product does not give you another vector. And what we do, right? So let's say, now this is just notation here, right? So let's say u, okay? And I'm just going to use some variables here, right? Like x1 I minus y1 j, okay? And let's say v, okay, is equal to some other vector x2 I, right? Plus, okay, y2j. It doesn't matter if it's a plus or minus, right? So then the dot product, u dot v, we actually just multiply the corresponding components together. There's x1 times x2 plus y1 times y2. Okay? So we multiply the corresponding components and then just add them up together. Okay, so what do we get here? Right? So, okay, I want to do u dot v. So we know u, right? So u is 2i minus 3j. We know that v is 1 or 1i plus 2j, right? So what is u dot v then? We multiply the corresponding components. So we got 2 times 1, which is 2, plus negative 3 times negative 2, which is negative 6. Add those together, get negative 4, right? The dot product is a number. It is not another vector. So what about w dot w? Okay, well, we know what w is, right? W is 4i minus j, okay? And of course, we're just going to take the dot product of itself. Okay? So what do? Right, we multiply the I components together. So 4 times 4 gives us 16. And then we add the j component, multiply the j components together. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Add these together, and then we get the final answer, which is 17, right? You remember, these numbers, the dot product, it's just a number, right? It doesn't really mean much, except in special cases. Well, so if the dot product is equal to 0, right, then that actually is quite important. Okay, so we'll do the last one here. We'll do u dot v dot w. Actually, there's a mistake here, right? This is it shouldn't be the dot product here. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to find v plus w here. Okay. So this should be a plus. All right. So remember, we can certainly add two vectors together, right? But then the dot product does not give you another vector, right? The dot product just gives you a number. All right, so let's take a look. The first thing we should do is we should add v plus w together, right? So v we know is I plus 2j. W we know is 4i minus j. So what happens when we add them together, right? v plus w, we get 1 plus 4, which is 5, and then 2 minus 1, which is plus 1j. Okay? So we get 5i plus 1j. That is the sum of v plus w. Now we want to find the dot product, right? We want to find the dot product of u and this new vector here. Well, we know that u is 2i minus 3j, right? So to find the dot product then, right, we'll take, in this case, the 5 times 2, which is 10, plus 1 times negative 3, which is negative 3. Add them together to get 7, right? So this will be the dot product of u dot v plus w.